Hey, it's Tim. I'm with my beautiful wife, Audrey Ann.
Hello.
This is the first episode of the Dreaming of Disney podcast. All things Disney, all the time. Mainly to Disney parks, though. That's what we're in Disneyland.
Mainly, yes.
Mainly Disneyland.
Mainly Disneyland.
That's our home turf.
Yes.
So yeah, we've been going to Disneyland for a while now, and we've been married 14 years, 4 kids, 3 boys, 1 girl.
Yep.
What are their ages
okay.
again?
Let's see. 11. Almost 12. 9. 5. Well, he's real close to 6.
Yeah.
So let's say 11, 9, almost 6, and 10 months. Baby girl, 10 months.
Baby girl, 10 months. 4th time's the charm.
They're all great.
No, they're all wonderful.
They're all wonderful.
So you kind of have a history with Disney in your family.
Disney was, I don't say a big deal, but yeah, I guess a big deal. Like, you know, it's pretty much all we watched. It's Disney movies. Both of my parents loved Disneyland. My mom grew up going to Disneyland. She grew up in LA, and she was only like 6, I think, when it opened. And so they would go all the time. Like, she would tell us stories all the time of her and my grandma just going for the afternoon and just getting popcorn and sitting on Main Street and just watching people. And those were really special memories for her. And so we didn't go that often. We did not live in LA, so we didn't go all the time, but it almost feels like we did. But then when I look back, I'm like, okay, like, she took me when I was 4. I think, again, my dad took me when I was 7, and then I think that may have been it, but I feel like we talked about Disneyland all the time. Maybe she took me twice when I was little, but we didn't actually go that often, but it was just talked about constantly. So then I think when it started really standing out to me, though, is when I started going, a little older. I went from, I think the last time I went when I was 7, and then the next time I went was with school, freshman year, with Magic Music Days, because I was in choir all through school. So doing that my freshman year, and it was amazing. Like, I still remember that trip so clearly, and my best friend and I just being like completely amazed at everything. And so it had been 7 years, but just from 7 to 14, you change a lot. You don't remember a whole lot from being, 7, and just everything was amazing. Like, the rides were amazing, and everything smelled amazing and looked amazing, and like, we didn't know anything. Like, I was thinking about this earlier, and I feel so bad. So we were just like a group of like 14, 15-year-old girls, like, running through the park. We didn't even know about the fireworks. So we're running through to go to a ride, and we're passing through in front of the castle, and the fireworks are going off. So we just stopped in front of the castle, like dead in front of the castle, not realizing until now that those people had been camped out for hours. And we just and it's a group.
And everybody hated you.
So a woman, I remember this and being like irritated, honestly, until I thought about it this morning. She rolled her stroller on my foot and left it there. And I remember being like talking to my friends, like, she has her stroller on my foot. And now I look back and I'm like, that mom had been parked out there for an hour. And like 5 14-year-old girls come and just stop right in front of her and her kids. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can I find her like 20 years later and apologize? Because I'm like, I hate when people do that to me.
So if you're listening to this right now, Audrey Ann is deeply,
I'm really
deeply sorry.
If you were in Disneyland, when would this have been? Like April or May of 2001. And some group of girls stopped in front of you. I'm very sorry. But yeah, so that really like set off my, like, I have to come regularly. Like, when we got home, like, we were like glowing and like talking to everybody about Disneyland. Like my sister still remembers when we came home and we're talking about it because we were like on fire. We were so excited. So after that, I pretty much went every year. Like I made sure I went every year. A few more times with choir, then times on my own with friends or, you know, my family. I got to take my mom back for the 50th, during the 50th. That was awesome. But yeah, and then until you and I got married, and then we started going even more.
Yeah, that's right. So the first time that I went to Disneyland, I actually went to Disney World first. I was like 3 or 4 years old. Don't really remember much of that. But first time I went to Disneyland, we were living in Sacramento at the time. And I was 7 years old, so it was 95?
No.
Yeah.
No, babe. No.
94? It was not. We moved.
93.
No, I was 7 in 94.
Okay, depending on when it was, yes.
Depending on when it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. Sometime in 1994, I was 7 years old. So that tells you how old I am right now. So there you go. And that was the same year that Indiana Jones opened. So my dad used to work in radio, and his radio station was doing a live remote at Disneyland. And he actually went first. So he went without all of us.
Painful.
So now I know.
Although we've gone without our kids.
I've gone without all of you a couple of times.
That's true.
A handful of times. But then, so he went first, and then I think it was a couple months later, like us and some of our family friends went. And the only thing I remember from that trip, I guess we're going to talk about this later, are Disney memories.
Yeah.
So I'll
Save
hold
it.
it. I'll save this to the end.
Save it.
That's a little teaser.
I have
little
an
teaser.
Indiana Jones memory. I'm sure everyone has an Indiana Jones memory.
But so yeah, my Disney memory is Indiana Jones, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, wait. Your
What?
history got better
That's true. It got way better.
in August of 2008.
That's right. So we got married
In May.
in May of 2008.
And in August, I was like, I need to take you because going when you're 7 is just not enough.
And we were so poor.
Yeah.
We were broke.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's go to Disneyland.
Well, no, we allotted for it. We
That's
stayed in a very cheap hotel on Catella, the worst bed I've ever slept on. And hopefully
It was
it's
hotter
better.
than the
This was
floor.
14 years ago, so hopefully they've updated their beds. And I don't even remember the name of it, but it
don't
was on
remember either.
Catella. It was down a little ways, like across from like the back of the Ferris wheel, kind of. But the worst bed ever.
Yeah.
But you really didn't know anything.
I had no idea.
Like, I think you wanted to get a map, and I was like, oh, I am the map. Like, we don't need a map. Yeah, so even though you had been, because you weren't even that big of a
no,
Disney fan. Like, you like Disney movies. I know your sister grew up loving, like, Disney
Yeah.
movies, but, like...
Really, the only Disney movies I really loved were Toy Story. Like, that was...
Excellent one.
Yeah,
but, yeah, like...
I wasn't really into the classics or anything like that. So
I
my
had my
experience
work
with
cut
Disney
out
was
for me.
very limited.
Yeah. So, and that was a great trip. And we did 2 days. We did like Disneyland one day. And then at that time, California hadn't been redone yet. And so it was still like we started the second morning in Disneyland, did a few hours over in California, ended back in Disneyland. Like there wasn't as much, there wasn't Cars Land or, there was not as much to do. So you could hit it all like in a few hours. But it was...
I now have another Disney memory. I have two parts. I have when I was 7, and then when we were married.
Our first trip.
So we'll talk about that later. So yeah, so we've been talking about doing this for a while, and being a family of 6 with 4 kids, you know, at my work, I'm kind of known as the Disneyland expert. So when people have questions about what to do at Disneyland, everyone's always like, "Go talk to Tim."
Yeah. And I've had several friends text me or call me and be like, "Hey, we're planning a trip. Can I call you like and ask you like for some tips?" Like over the years, like that's
Yeah.
happened to us a lot.
Yeah. And there's
And I'm
lots
totally happy to do it. I'm like, I can talk about this forever. Yeah, give me a call. Like,
yeah. And there's so many tips and tricks. A lot of it's kind of changed a little bit with Disney Plus, but the principles.
Plus?
Genie Plus. Did I say what did I say?
You said Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. Great service, by the way. Love the Star Wars. So it's changed a little bit, but the principles are still kind of the same. But things like Rider Switch and things to bring.
You can pack your lunch, which
packing,
this is
yeah.
all an episode we'll do.
So, but so yeah, I mean, all these things that we've told people, we want to share with the rest of the world, because there's lots of people that don't realize there's ways to make Disneyland a lot easier with kids, because it can be
Yeah.
very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Just like what we found out when we went to Disney World.
Yeah. And which will be an upcoming episode. Just so I can't imagine going in and because it's a lot more complicated now. And I started going regularly long before I had kids. So then by the time I had kids, there was a lot I knew. But I remember our first trip with our oldest, Jack, right before we went, a friend told me about Rider Switch, and I did not know that. And that makes a huge difference, you know?
Yeah.
So just little things like that. It's like if, you know, we can tell people and help them so that, because you could easily go to Disneyland and have an absolutely horrible time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and especially the people that go that aren't huge Disney fans, but could still have a good time, but don't necessarily love Disney. It'd be even easier for them to have a horrible time if you know, they don't have these little tricks. And then also we just love talking about it. I mean, we talk about Disneyland all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
A lot.
We just went to Disney World a few weeks ago, and then we're going to Disneyland coming up in May for our anniversary. We're going to be we have to bring the baby with us, but
Yes.
that's still fun.
Yeah. Leaving the boys, but it'll still be slower. A slower trip. But I'm kind of looking forward to that and
Yeah.
doing things a little different.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is something fun, creative that we can do together. You know, I work in the video business, so, you know, this type of stuff is what I do a lot during the day, but it's fun to be able to do it with my beautiful and crazy talented wife.
And I talk a lot during the day to myself, so now I just get to do it in front of a microphone, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
works.
But so yeah. But anyway, so we wanted to talk about some Disney memories. First Disney memories that we had. Disneyland. That's one thing I'm gonna get into is my pet peeve. When people say we're going to Disney, but they refer it, it's like that can mean so many things. Are you going to Disneyland? Are you going to Disney World? Are you going to Disneyland Paris? Are you going
Disneyland store?
to Disney
Disneyland store, Disney store, which
Disney store?
I don't even know if those are around anymore.
It seems to be more of an East Coast thing than a West
It
Coast
does.
thing.
I'm hearing it more out this way. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
like through social media and the popularity that I feel like Disneyland has gained more through social media. Like it seems like I hear it more out here, but yeah, I definitely noticed it more. Well, I lived in New York for a while, and I worked at the Disney store, and they all refer to everything as Disney. Oh, we went to Disney. I'd be like, well, what are you talking about? Disneyland? And they're like, no, like Disney World. I'm like, well, you didn't say that. Like, and I'm from California, and I'm like, oh, you know, Disneyland, like, and Disney World. And it was like a cultural difference.
Yeah.
People that grew up going to Disney World and Disneyland.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see when I lived.
So I
on the
just
East
ask if you're saying you're going to Disney, Just which land/world are you going
Just
to?
specify so we
Yeah,
can talk
it's-
about it.
it's,
Because
you know-
now we've been to both.
We have been to both.
Definitely don't know hardly, like I know hardly anything about Disney World. It was new and
We just have to go again.
yes.
We have to go again. So, so first Disneyland memories. Most memorable. Should we do first or most memorable? Or we
Most
could do both.
memorable? Well, my first is kind of my most memorable because I don't remember much about this trip. I was 3 or 4. Went with my mom and my siblings and close family friend and her kids. I remember sitting on my mom's lap in front of Dumbo and holding my Snow White figurine, which I still have and is now in our daughter's room. I used to get a figurine every time I went. And Snow White was the first one, which they don't have. They have like fancy ones now that are expensive, but they used to just be like $14. They were probably even cheaper when I got the Snow White one back in, what would that have been, 90? But yeah, it is all glued together because I used to play with it when I was little.
It's like a porcelain.
It's porcelain figurine, you know. You know what I'm talking about. And yeah, I would break it all the time, and then I'd have to wait. Like my granddad was a jeweler and had like special like strong glue, and I'd have to wait for him to come visit because my mom would be like, well, now looking back, she was probably just not wanting to fix it on her own and giving me the excuse like when granddad comes to visit, he'll fix it. Because there's glue like all over it. But yeah, so that's like my first memory, and that's kind of the only memory I have of that trip. I mean, I was 3 or 4, so that's my first.
Okay.
Not my necessarily most memorable, but my
And if
first.
you're wondering what that winding sound in the background is, we are a big family, so we have to do laundry 24/7. That's the washing machine.
It's
Ignore
laundry.
it. We gotta do it sometime. So my first Disneyland memory, like I said, I was 7 years old. Disneyland, Indiana Jones had just opened. I forget, it was the same year. I don't know how like soon after we went it was open. So this is before fast passes and everything. So this was just a regular line. I remember waiting in line forever, and I believe we waited about 3 hours to ride it. And it kept breaking down while we were in line,
Which it still does.
which it still does. It still breaks down constantly. That's because it's amazing. So yeah, that's pretty much my only remember from that
Yeah.
trip was just waiting in line forever for Indiana Jones. I can't remember if we did one day or if we did multiple days. But I just remember waiting in line forever for Indiana Jones.
I think your mom said you just did one day.
Probably.
She said
Sounds
something
about
about it the other day. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going. I wonder if we were there at the same time.
Maybe.
Because my dad took me when I was 4, and then he took me again when I was around 7. And we were 7 at the same time. I wonder. Because Indiana Jones was pretty new, I remember, when I went on it with my dad, and I thought I was going to die at the part. You all know. No spoilers in case anyone
95.
has never been on it.
March 4th, 95. So it was in 95.
95, so
So it wasn't 94.
you were 9.
9? That was not.
My dad, babe, you were born in 86.
Just telling the whole world.
Well, do the math. You already did the math. 95, you're not 7. So later that year, you turned 8. But then in 95, so depending on when you went, maybe you were 8.
Maybe.
Maybe you were 8. So I guess my dad took me when I was 8 or 9.
So I was 8 or 9 when we went. I was young.
Yeah.
Math is still not my strong suit.
But don't you wish, I wish I could go back and experience Indiana Jones for the first time again.
Man, it freaked me
No,
out.
I thought I was in the front row and I thought it broke. And so at the part, I mean, just in case no one's ever been on it, I don't want to spoil.
So many people have been on
what,
Indiana
though?
Jones.
But what if no one has? And I am talking about how the fact that I wish I could experience it again, and then I'm going to spoil it for some 9-year-old who just got brave enough to do it. Like
Yeah.
our son, none of our kids have been on it. I don't want
That's
to
true.
spoil it for them. I want to see their reaction at that part. That's what I want to see.
They went on Dinosaur at Disney
I didn't
World,
get to go
which
on.
is pretty much the exact same thing as Indiana Jones, except with the dinosaur theme.
But there's like a much scarier theme of Indiana Jones, and they have not seen the movies,
Yeah.
so
Dinosaurs is it's all in the dark, so you can't see anything outside like the flashes of the dinosaurs that you see. Whereas Indiana Jones, you see the entire
yeah.
Temple of the Forbidden Eye.
But the part,
Yeah,
the climax, I thought it must be broken, and
are you talking about the
yeah,
the iconic Indiana
Yes.
Jones
Yes.
moment?
yes.
Because I got scared before that. It was when the thing tries to eat you.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that freaked me out. And so I ducked my head.
Yeah, see, just talking about it now, I'm like, no, the boys are not. They'd be so freaked out.
I
But
ducked my head and I didn't look up until the ride was done. And so like
oh,
the part
you missed the
I missed
end.
like a whole bunch of parts.
Yeah, the end, I thought it broke and I was going to die. I just remember clinging to my dad and thinking, this is it. This is how I go
This is the moment.
when I'm 9. But yeah, I wish I could like go back and like experience the rides for the first time again.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's kind of fun we get to do with our kids. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
Speaking of going to most memorable, all right, memorable or just
maybe not most, but a memorable.
a memorable.
Because there's
Yeah,
a lot.
There's a lot. When we first went together,
This
there's a
needs
couple
to be-
things.
This needs to be video. Though. This can't be.
I know. So talking about experiencing a ride for the first time,
Okay, so preface this with you hated roller
I
coasters.
hate roller coasters.
Well, hated. Let's say
I
hated.
hated. I still don't like the Six Flags,
Right.
Magic Mountain those are like stupid. But like before, when we first got married, I did not do roller coasters. I was forced to go on the Top Gun roller coaster at Great America by my family, and ever since then I swore off roller coasters, like never again.
So we start our trip off in Disneyland, very mild. Like there's nothing there. That's crazy. You loved Space Mountain, but there's no like craziness there. So we go to California, walking down Hollywood Boulevard. We turn the corner, and I'm like, we're going on Tower of Terror. And you're like, no. I'm like, no, I'm not going on it alone. Like, and we were newly married. I remember at the time, we got like just married pins,
Yeah.
and we thought we were lying. We were like, oh, they were not real. Because someone had asked us, a cast member, and they gave us the pins that said just married, but we felt like we were kind of lying. And now I'm looking back and I'm like, we were just married. We'd been married 3 months. And now I'm like, but at the time we thought we'd been married. Like, oh, we weren't newlyweds
yeah. Yeah,
anymore.
we're not
We
newlyweds.
were 3 months in.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you can't let your new wife go on a ride alone. You have to come with me. Like, I don't want to ride it by myself. And so you very begrudgingly decided to come with me.
Oh my gosh, I was so terrified.
The best, which we haven't taken our kids yet.
No.
I don't even know if they can top your reaction though. And I can't. Okay. So he's a tall man.
I'm 6'1".
Tall.
Yeah.
Taller than me. Everyone is, but so because he's long legs. So I don't even, as we start going up and down, I don't know how to describe
My
it.
legs start flailing.
Like, no, you were stomping. Like,
Yeah.
right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Like, really, really fast and going, ah. But it was the legs. It was the legs. Just the, like, stomping back and forth. Like, and knees going high at the same time going, wow. Like, the entire time. Like, not just screaming.
man.
The legs. And I was just laughing so hard because I had been on it several times. And it was just, I wish I had video. I wish I could get video
Yeah.
of it.
That was. I was freaked out.
I was crying. Like I had tears rolling down my face for a while after we got off, just reliving it. Like it was a great reaction. So that was
Yeah, so when we went, they were doing the promotion Year of a Million Dreams. And they were giving out like bonus like fast passes.
which it looks like the food and wine.
Yeah, it's like the lanyard with the little break offable coupons.
And they kept handing it. They handed us more, like they just handed it to us because we had the Just Married pins on.
Yeah.
So a few times cast members were like, "Here you go," and I think we had 2 each.
We got 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and so we got the first one, and then we still had some left over, and then I think we were coming
just walking
around
the castle.
We were walking around the
Yeah.
castle, and they were like, "Here you go."
Yeah.
And so we're like, "Oh, that's cool." And so, I had just been on Tower of Terror, and then so we had a whole bunch of fast passes for those. I think we went on it.
Oh, that's right. We got if you wanted to go on it again, like immediately.
Yeah. So
We would just walked right back on.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we went on it
That's
like
right.
2 or 3 times. in
I
a
don't
row.
think we did 3.
No, 2 times in a row.
That's-
After the second time, I felt a little sick.
Yeah, I feel like,
remember.
okay.
You're like, okay, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
So going from being totally freaked out to like loving it, and now
Yeah.
like Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout is like one of my favorite. That's a really good
It
one.
is good. I wasn't happy about the change,
Mm-hmm.
but when I wrote it, I was like, man, gosh. Every time there's a change and I'm like not for it, I won't say every time. That's an exaggeration. There's a lot of times where there's a change and I'm not for it, and then I'm like, gosh, Disney knows how to do it though because
Yeah.
it's good. It's good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So
So that was memorable.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a good trip.
Yeah.
Trying to think of one that was recent,
Oh, recent.
the
I was like, I
boys.
have an old one.
but go ahead.
It doesn't involve you. This was before you.
That's all right.
This was my choir days. It's my senior year of high school. And we've gone, I lost track. But still one of the best trips. Just because, it was my senior year. It was the end of my senior year. I was there with choir, which was going to be ending because I was graduating. We got to have our awards ceremony for the festival at the Hyperion Theater. So like the previous years, the award festivals were just off site somewhere, like some college campus in Anaheim. But this year it was actually at at California Adventure. So that was cool. We won first place. And then once the ceremony was over, our class had to stay after for a while. So by the time we got out of the theater, California Adventure was closed. And so we were like running out of there. Well, not running. We were actually taking our time because it was cool because we were like the only ones in there, like with our trophy and just like walking around. And then we ran over to Disneyland, and it was late at this point. It was, I don't know, 10 or 11. We wanted to be there till closing. And we were obsessed with Pirates because, I had always loved the ride. It was one of my dad's favorites, but the movie had come out that year. So, again, aging myself. But, so of course, all of us girls in choir were obsessed with it. And so we got to we ran to Pirates with our huge trophy and wrote it with our trophy. We gave it a special spot. And yeah, it was just awesome. And for that time period, I'm 17, and it was just great. It was one of the best trips. No offense to you and the kids.
That's all right.
There have been many more since, but that one comes into my mind when I think of one of the best Disneyland times. It was good.
Yeah.
So if, you were in my class, you know how fun it was. Yeah.
Since you're talking about a memory that didn't include me,
Sorry.
I will
have
do a
lot.
memory that didn't include you.
I went a lot before you and I were married. I could go on. Oh, see, they're just coming up. My mom.
This one might seem a little boring, but it was cool to me.
Is it as good as my mom's wheelchair getting stuck in the tracks all the time? Continue.
So, I went to Disneyland for work once, and at the time, it was Live with Kelly and Michael Strahan, Kelly Ripa and Michael Strahan, and got to watch. It was for the 60th. They were doing the 60th. I think it was the 60th year.
Yeah, I think so.
And
yeah, I remember.
and I went there to for work and for the show, and it was cool to see how they took the right on Main Street by the right where Main Street starts, the circle part
By the flagpole.
by the flagpole. They transformed that into a stage, and they had, I forget who the guest was that day. Was it The Rock? It was The Rock. It was Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. He was there. And I forget what movie he was promoting, but he was promoting a movie. And so that was cool to see behind the scenes. And also Disney, they have their own like media team specifically for this type of stuff. So it was cool to like they have like in the grass patches that they have like along like by Tomorrowland. It's where like all the ducks go into.
Oh, yeah.
And they have like the wrought iron fence, so you can't get into it, but there's gas. Like they have these secret little electrical and Ethernet port receptacles that motorized come out of the ground. So it's like, and then like the media team just plugs right into them. They have power there, and they can connect to the internet for the cameras and stuff like that. So I just thought that was cool, just seeing all the behind the scenes stuff and all the media stuff that they have there and cameras so I thought that was cool.
Similar behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think it would have been, I can't remember if it was my freshman or sophomore year in high school, there for the music days. I think it was my freshman year, which made that trip so great. We got to go behind Toontown and they have studios back there, or they did way back when. And we got to go into one of the studios, and a woman who was like, I don't know what her title was, but she was a singer for Disneyland. She sang for the fireworks that were playing at that time. This would have been back in like 2001 or so. So she was a singer for Disneyland. I don't know, but I want her job. But she took us into the recording studio and taught us the harmonies and everything for Be Our Guest. And we got to sing it and then record it. And so that was really cool, seeing behind the scenes of that. And then ever since then, I've wanted that job. But yeah.
Bonus memory that includes our kids, because I guess we can do that.
I have one with my mom, though, and that doesn't include our kids.
That's all right. The year that Jack met Spider-Man, you remember that? And how we waited for a long time Jack was going through a Spider-Man phase.
Yes.
And it was new that they were starting to have Marvel characters at the park.
They hadn't bought Marvel yet.
No, they had bought, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They bought Marvel like in the mid 2000s.
Oh, okay. So this was 2017.
Yeah. And they had that new little Spider-Man area in California Adventure next to the stage by Monsters Inc. And Jack was going through a huge Spider-Man phase, and he really wanted to go meet Spider-Man. And then we went up, and then the cast members standing at the end of the line usually means the line's closed, or they're going to be taking a break here pretty soon. So we got there like, oh, Spider-Man, he has to go, do whatever he has to do.
See Aunt May or something, they say.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, is he going to be back later? And they say, oh, yeah, he'll be back in such and such time. And I remember he wanted to meet him so bad that we stayed there, so that way we were first in line to meet him, and then when it was our turn, Jack, like, he was doing like the
poses,
the poses
yeah.
and like he was always doing the like the Spider-Man fingers,
Yeah,
like
the web shooting.
The web shooting, like,
Yeah.
and so he was doing that Spider-Man, and he thought that was pretty
We
great.
got some good pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
And
your-
and he has no problem getting into character, and he's never been afraid of the characters. So, yeah, he just walks right up and he'll just play along. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty great.
Okay, one more old time one that just like, I don't know how often this happens anymore with how busy the parks are. But, so this was back when, I want to say 2002, I think, around then. And I went with my sister and my brother, my best friend, and her sister and brother, because we are all best friends. All these siblings are best friends with each other. And so the six of us took a few trips together. And it was, I think it might have been after the fireworks. And we ran to Splash Mountain. And this was back to when you could run through the park. We ran everywhere. We would make a chain. We'd all hold hands, and we'd let my brother lead because he was the fastest. And we would just book it through the parks, and whoever's at the end of the chain is just like whipping around. It was so fun. You can't do that anymore. It's too crowded, and they tell you not to run. No one ever told us not to run, and we did this all the time. But we run to Splash Mountain, walk right on. It's amazing. We get off, and we're like, let's do it again. We walk right on, and we rode it 3 times. Like, we just walked right on. Like, there was no line, and the cast members were like, you don't even, just go again. Like, we didn't even, I think the third time we didn't even have to, like, go out. Like, they were just like, just get back on. Like, and it was just fun. You know, it was late at night, before the kids.
Yeah.
When you can stay till the absolute last minute, and it was just fun. And I just don't feel like that happens as much anymore because it's just a lot busier than it used to be. But
So next episode, we're going to start, what?
should we do the next episode our Disney World recap, or should we do like one about Disneyland and then start doing our recap? What do you think? You tell us, you one listener. What would you like to hear?
Yeah, I guess we can do a Disneyland tip. Disneyland or
something based on Disneyland.
Yeah.
And then after that, go into our experience. I'm going to say, because it was my first time at Disney World. Mm-hmm. All our kids, obviously, first time at Disney World. Technically not your first time, but I feel like we can call it your first time.
It was my first time.
So first Disney World trip, and we're just kind of recapping it, and which we've already recorded a few because we wanted it fresh in our mind because we've already been home for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
And so we've been recording them here and there because we wanted to be fresh in our minds, and
We're only on day 2 of 10.
6 park days.
2 of 6.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be coming up, but maybe the next episode will be like a Disney. Still, you know, our home.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
So.
our one true love.
Yeah. So yeah, but we are on Instagram. So give us a follow. Disney. No. It's totally wrong. What is it? Go ahead.
Dreaming. Should I say all the dots that I had to do?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
That's how they find us.
Dreaming.of.Disney.podcast.
Yep.
Did I say that correctly?
Dreaming.
Basically a dot after every word except at the end. Dreaming.of.Disney.podcast. So there you go.
So if you have ideas, comments, suggestions,
Questions
tell us to
on-
stop talking.
Yeah. Questions on, for tips we can talk about. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know.
Yeah.
Hit us up. Slide into our DMs.
Don't ever say that again.
Topic to be determined.
Yes, we'll figure it out.
We got a list. If you got an idea, let us know. So, it's time to switch the laundry. So,
I need reminders. I have 4 kids. So, next podcast coming soon about Disneyland. we'll figure out the topic. Yeah. Thanks
Yeah.
for listening.
Thanks for listening. And
if you're still around.
yeah,
If
sorry.
you're still listening, thank you.
This is our first one, so we'll figure it out along the way. All right. Signing off. Till next time.
Bye.